Ain't no shame in holding on to grief. As long as you make room for other things too.
From a cleft tongue, Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
My name is Jarle. I'm the bass guitarist and the songwriter of the Norwegian metal band Vreid.
Now, besides metal, is there any other way that you describe Vreid's music?
Rock. No, so I think it's, I like just to be called a metal band. There's, of course, clear references to black metal in our music, but I think, we like to play around with rock, metal, whatever fits. So I think metals is good enough.
So a term I see in reference to Vreid's music is it Sognametal?
Sognametal, yes.
Can you explain the concept of Sognametal?
Well, this just kind of started with our previous band, Windir. When Hváll Kvåle started that band, it was kind of just to distance himself for the whole idea of the music from the regular black metal term. So he decided, I write about this region where I come from, which is called Sogn, and it's metal. So it was kind of just to create your own little playground, kind of just avoid tags from others, I guess. So it was based on that, and it's kind of stuck like an identity for what we do with music for almost 30 years.
So is Sognametal restricted to bands who come from that region, or just the members that were in Windir and are now in Vreid?
I'm not quite sure, to be honest. It's a term that's kind of stuck to what we've been doing, and I think it's very much related to what was Windir in the bands that came afterwards. But if other bands feel inspired by bands from, like Windir or Vreid and stuff like that and call themselves Sognametal inspired, that's fine. I think it's just a cool thing. But for me, it's just it was just a way of saying that we don't really care what people call our music. We call it this, even though at that time, what was Sognametal? It was nothing. It was just kind of to find a description that we do whatever we want. And that's kind of the spirit I've liked to follow since then.
Now, what about black metal? How do you feel that your music fits in with black metal, or how black metal fits in with what you write for Vreid?
It's been an important inspiration for what we've done. When we started out playing in 93, 94 and around that area, we started to listen to the Scandinavian black metal bands that emerged at that time or a few years earlier. So it was a very important inspiration, but I don't think that we can be just labeled as a typical black metal band, because just as important as black metal has been the classic heavy metal, the old 70s rock, the thrash metal scene, and all those factors are and have always been an important factor in our music. So yes, black metal is part of it, I will say.
So briefly, just tell me a little bit about the history of Vreid. You've already mentioned that the members of Vreid were previously in Windir.
Yeah, we started out Windir in 2000. No, Vreid, sorry. We started out Vreid in 2004 after the death of Jarle Hváll Kvåle. So after that, we decided that it would be wrong to continue the band we were at the time with Windir. It didn't feel right, so we kind of just dived into doing something new immediately. So it all started off as a new band in 2004, but for me, it's also not like a clear line where I divide between the bands, because it's the same guys and the same friends and everyone involved besides Terje, who's no longer there. So it's it's something we've been doing since the early 90s. So, but as for Vreid, there was more opening a new chapter when another one closed. So we started that in 2004 and have been going quite steady since then with releasing, it's the 9th album, and kind of touring the world whenever we can.
Now, do you write most of the music for Vreid?
Yes, I write all the music and the lyrics for Vreid.
Musically, how would you say Vreid compares to Windir, or how the two relate to each other?
I think it's, since in Windir, with the first albums, it started out Hváll Kvåle as a solo project and he wrote it all himself. But for the two last albums, it was me and him writing it 50-50. So I think that just when I started off Vreid, I just kind of continued where I was at that time. But with the first album, I kind of stripped things down again, and it was just kind of trying to build something from new. But I think that's the path that I followed would also be something we would have done quite similar if we would still have been Windir, because we don't really apply with rules or work within frames or anything like that. We just kind of follow the feeling that we have at that time and how we want to write music, what kind of music we enjoy. So for me, it's not like we've decided that Vreid should be this and Windir was that and something like that. We kind of just go where inspiration leads us and follow what we want to do, I think.
Just tell me about your songwriting process a little bit. You mentioned you're the main songwriter. Are you going to the band with full songs and full song structures, or are they fleshed out from more loose ideas?
It's pretty much full song structures. The way I do it is that I kind of start right when I have a song finished or some songs finished. I kind of involve Steingrim, the drummer, and then we kind of work with the drums a lot, set up the pattern for the drums. And I always have an idea how I want it to be, and then it kind of just works around that and, very often changes things around. And so when we've done that, pretty much 90% of the music is set. And then I send the demo versions to other guys, and then they kind of start working on their guitar parts and stuff like that. But basically, it's written, so it's more like kind of working with harmonies, melodies, or smaller details together as a band. But I will say primarily 80 or 90% of the songs is finished when they get them.
Y en mis venas, mi afro
let's talk about Wild Northwest. It's the 9th Vreid album, as you mentioned, and it came out at the end of April through Season of Mist Records. Tell me a little bit about the writing process for this album.
It was a bit different because when I started writing as normally for album, but quite early on I decided I wanted to make it more of a concept story where the songs were connected. And then when we came to last May or June, I talked with our video producer Hváll, who's done some videos for us before, and asked him if we could do something completely different this time. We just make a movie alongside the album and make a music video for each song and connect it to a concept story. And that kind of changed the way I write the album, because some of the ideas that I had, when I started writing the story or plot for a movie, it changed how I wanted things musically. And as this process progressed and I could started to see the first rough things that were done with the video, I felt like some of the music didn't quite work out anymore, so I had to add things or take things away. So it became a process of working in a complete different way, because you got all of a sudden a visual aspect, and that started kind of to, inspire me or determine how I wanted to go in a different direction to get a different atmosphere for a theme or something like that. So all in all, I have to say it was quite different from anything we'd done before.
So did you have ideas for the videos before you had ideas for the music, or were they coming to you around the same time?
It was a bit of both, because I had ideas for videos and the concept, even though all of the music wasn't ready, but some of the music was ready. So I pretty early on, I had the story in my head how I wanted it to be, but it's kind of changed alongside the whole process. And very often I have this kind of, how to say, a vision or something like that when I start with an album, and same with the movie, but of course you can't just stuck to that, because then you're going to limit yourself and then it's going to just get stale and boring. So I always like to kind of let the process bring in new elements and turn it around, turn everything upside down if you need it. So I like to kind of have this start out with a kind of vision, but also let there be a process where you can, open your own thoughts a bit more and kind of do something that you hadn't.
Now, is this the first concept album for Vreid?
Yes, I have to say so, because, or with I Krig and Milorg albums, they were kind of both themed around the Second World War and the resistance in Norway during that period. So it was kind of concept album, but more like they were, or I would say they were more theme-based than a concept album. This time it's a conceptual story that we're following from start to beginning.
Tell me a little bit about the story, and tell me about the character who appears in the videos and who the concept is built around.
It's a fictional character, but I was kind of very much inspired by when I saw this young war sailors, so a documentary about them when they went out during the Second World War, and kind of when you leave your home, you're young, you're kind of filled with hopes for your lives, and you think it's adventurous to go out in the big world. And then you go out and have these dramatic events that kind of have such a strong impact on your life, and how much this can traumatize a person just over a small period. And I kind of then follow up to see a lot of these people when they came back to Norway. They were put into this, strange places and abandoned asylums, and out in the hillsides and everywhere, and kind of just to see how easily such a youthful and dreamy life can be crushed into something really brutal. That story inspired me a lot, and based on that, I kind of started to write my own little story, inspired by their events and what happened. And so it is. Following this character is very much inspired by historical events, but it is a fictional story. So that's kind of the background for where we started off and where we're heading off with this whole idea.
Now I'm curious, what inspired you, or what drove you to do something like this that you haven't done before, to create a character and to write a story or write a whole album around him?
It's kind of to find new angles to work, I think, because I've written a lot of things that's kind of more like, strictly historical. I've done things where it's kind of just lyrics, my thoughts on things and my approach, but kind of to just set yourself into the mind of one specific character and, add different characters. So you kind of go into this, you create your own little universe. And for me, it was something I haven't done before, but when you find these little, other ways to work or kind of tweaks, it's my experience that triggers your creativity and it kind of challenges the way you work, because if you do the same over and over again, it gets repetitive, it gets not that inspiring, and it can also the results maybe gets a bit more boring. So I kind of like to dive into something and don't really have a safety net around you. And here I found a new way of working that I haven't done before, and for me that made the whole process quite easy, because then you're filled with curiosity and want to do something else.
Now, is that important for you when you approach Vreid's music to come up with new angles or new areas to explore?
Yes, I think I would go as far as say it's completely essential, because it makes me want to create. And in order to do something, I need to feel this kind of urge, this kind of excitement to doing it. If I'm just writing something, it's just another album, I hope people like it or whatever. It's like, I can't work like that. I have to find a factor that drives me, something that kind of makes it scary, spooky in some ways, when you're a bit stressed and everything around that triggers creativity for me. So when I kind of try to kind of just go back and do something like I did before, it just feels like it doesn't feel inspiring. And I think writing music or lyrics or, making art is all about being inspired.
Do you like working outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah, I have to say so. You need some kind of comfort zone, of course. I'm lucky enough to have my own studio and my own place to work in, so I have some routines, but bringing in new gear, doing different stuff, as I said, finding the new angles, that's, I love that. And it's the same thing with touring, of course, I love to play some of the great places that we play over and over again, but whenever I get into a new venue, a city I've never been in before, that's kind of, it's, that makes me more inspired, I have to admit, than when you do the same thing over and over again.
Now, what does the title Wild Northwest, what is it in reference to?
It's in reference to where we come from, our area, in the one sense, and also it's kind of a fun thing, kind of poking to the more traditional Western movies, Western lyrics, the aesthetics of all that, which kind of, when I came without, it was such an, easy title. It comes, just rolls off your tongue. It becomes, and I like, very often I think titles become so complex that, I understand that myself, because I've done that myself. You try to find such words or sentence that really captures it all, and it gets so introverted that it doesn't really make sense anymore. So I love titles that kind of sounds a bit easy and a bit funny and maybe a bit stupid sometimes, but still can have some content. And so it was something I was working on a text line, and then you came up with that in text line. It was like immediately this is going to be the title.
Let's talk about the videos created for this album. From what I understand, there's a whole movie split into 8 chapters as per the 8 songs on the album. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Tell me about how you work through the concepts for the videos with the director.
I kind of made even before I got the lyrics, I just made a little short documentary for each song. What's it about and how I saw it. How can we make this become a movie? And of course, then it was good to have something that actually can make a movie with you, because he can immediately come and say, I like your idea here, but it's completely impossible to do this. Or the other way around, adding, I hear what you're saying here, but we can do this and then we can make it more exciting. So I kind of made this short stories how I wanted to be. Then I gave him the lyrics, then I got the music. So he could, kind of go in and tell me professionally, how can we do this and what's possible? And based on that, we used a lot of improvisation when we first started, because we followed the idea, but it was just us. It was, me and the producer basically, and the other actors and the ones joining in. So it was like we were kind of that made it small budget. It made it, limited, but also quite easy to adapt if we got new ideas or found new atmosphere of how we wanted to do it.
Would you mind saying the name of the director again?
The director is Håvard Nesbø.
And you've worked with Håvard before, right? Like he's worked with Vreid, videos for Vreid before?
Yeah, he's done some. We started just like right before the Life Hunger album, and he did some photo sessions, and then did some lyric videos, and then in the last summer when we did this big streaming concert, we did a streaming concert in the mountainside of Norway. He did that, and then I really understood that he's completely like a fifth member. He knows wherever you want to go, and it was just find that when you have this connection with someone, you can do that. I don't think I would have dared to do this project if I haven't found anyone I can trust like him.
When did you shoot this?
We started in September, the first shootings, and we wrapped it up in January.
Were you affected at all by what was going on in the world around you, meaning the pandemic and COVID restrictions or anything like that?
Yeah, there were some, of course, and there was restriction with traveling and stuff like that. But even though so much of this is filmed at isolated places, we went to an old abandoned asylum. A lot of it is done outside. So, when we first got out there, it wasn't really a big problem for us to do this. But it was more just a kind of logistic of bringing people in and out. But luckily for us in that period, Norway wasn't really hit that hard. So it wasn't such a big challenge with the pandemic, actually.
Your record label Season of Mist did a live stream of the full movie. And I believe right now there are 2 videos that people can watch online. Is that correct? Yeah,
currently it is. And also actually we are now releasing it on an online platform, Vimeo. So there you can go in and you can buy the full movie if you want with some bonus material, or you can rent it if you just want to see it for a couple of days. So we're making it available for everyone now to get access to it. And it's also been it's been out on DVD. So a lot of the vinyl versions have had a DVD of the movie and stuff like that. So now we did a free online streaming first and brought it out so people could see it, and now we also made it available for online purchase and through DVD and in the vinyl packages.
let's just talk about the recording of the music for a little while. So you recorded this yourself at your own studio, right?
Yes, we did the drums and the rhythm guitars in our studio in Oslo here, and worked with a producer there, that Anders Noreng, he was the producer of the Life Hunger album. So we set it up more like a live session there. Did all the drums and rhythm guitars in 4 days. Then I brought the tracks back to my studio, and here I did the bass, the keys, the lead guitars, and vocals in my studio, and then I did the final mixing myself here.
Now, have you been recording Vreid's music yourself for the most part?
Yeah, partially. On some albums we've mixed other places, so it's been a bit back and forth. I think it's 2 or 3 albums I've done everything myself. So I like to be involved. And especially the mixing process I like a lot to do. But I think also it's kind of healthy for each production to do some parts of it elsewhere, just to kind of bring in other elements again. And the studio and the producer that we did with Anders in Oslo, he's such a good producer, and he's more kind of a rock producer, not really a metal producer. And I really like that when we work on the drums and rhythm guitars, because I want us to have a more like a solid organic production, rather than make it sounded too clicky and too Pro Tools metal standardized. So I like to bring that in, and based on that, when you have such a good fundament that kind of reflects how quite close to how I want Vreid to sound live, and bring that in as the backbone of the music, then it's actually quite easy to do the rest part.
So we spoke about the links between Vreid and Windir musically. I understand that the song "Into the Mountains" has music that was originally written by Hváll of Windir.
Yeah, it was when the pandemic just started. I was sitting in my studio and we couldn't go anywhere, so I started to just go over old recordings, old files, and I just came across something from our hard disks from the Windir period, and I found a couple of guitar ideas, something that I'd written at that time, and I couldn't remember it at all. And it was found out it was dated to a session between the 1184 and the Likefred album. So, but I really liked what I found there, and I also found a keyboard part by Hváll that he recorded. That was not intended for the same session, but it was such a great theme. So inspired by these things, I just sat down in the studio for, I think what was 1 or 2 days, and wrote that song. And it felt very strange and very unique. It felt like kind of having one of those sessions that me and Hváll had again, sitting in the studio together working, So I wanted that song to sound exactly like it had been recorded or written in that period. So the song itself was kind of written new again, but it was very much inspired by those themes. And I actually included the keyboards that you can hear in the intro and in the middle part is the actual keyboards that Hváll recorded.
Into the Mountains also has that part near the end, which is a little bit unusual for Vreid. Can you tell me a little bit about that part?
Yeah.
It's like almost like a electronica kind of thing.
Yeah, that came based on the keyboard themes that Hváll had made, and he had kind of put in this strange bossa nova rhythm to it when he was working on it. So that kind of stuck with me when I wrote this song, and we tried that first, but kind of that rhythm didn't work at all. It was even weirder. So, but I really wanted it to be something really straightforward. So, the drums is very much electronica based. And there was another song that I was listening to the same day as we were recording the drums for that one. And I was, I loved that just beat of an electronica song that I heard. And I said that to Steingrim drummer, let's simplify everything, remove all the ideas we had, just play it just like this, straightforward. And so that was kind of an improvisation that happened in the last minute before recording the drums.
And how do you feel about it now that it's completed and out in the world?
Well, I love that part, and I love myself to be surprised when things turn up, unexpected. And most people that have heard that song kind of said they didn't see that twist coming, But I think it's lovely, I love that myself. So, and especially when I get that kind of feeling, it isn't planned, but we just get that kind of feeling, that instinct. But when you do it, it's like the other guys was like, sure, are we going to do that? Of course we're going to do it. It feels right, so let's just do it. And afterwards, I always get good feelings when you dare to make those choices.
So Wild Northwest is out now through Season of Mist Records. Jarle, tell people how they can order the album and what the best way to get it is.
The best way is to Vreid it, to order it through the Vreid shops. So you can go to vreidshop.com. There you can go to the Norwegian shop or the international shop. There you have the Vreid albums, you have all the merchandise, you even got some Windir merchandise and all that. So we kind of set up around stores. That's the best way to support the band. But if you can't find anything there, or is easier to you to get it elsewhere, I recommend you go to the Seasonal Mist shop and get your albums there.
Now, do you want to say anything about the vinyl versions and the DVD?
Yeah, they were. We made. I think Seasonal Mist made 4 different versions on vinyls. There were like a deluxe package with DVD and stuff, and there was the black vinyl, and there was a color one. But they were all sold out actually within the release. So that, of course, was amazing. That means that the audience likes the album more than the record company had hoped for, I guess. So, of course, that's a luxury problem. I got a bit frustrated myself that people, whenever it's out there, you have to wait long to get the vinyl, and have to it wasn't possible to order it through our shops anymore. So, but luckily now it's been repressed and has made a new version of it. So it should be out again this summer. So that's something that, I really appreciate that so many people have supported our music even before it was released. And it seems that people have really grown fond of this album, and that makes us very happy, of course.
And as you mentioned, the DVD will be packaged with the vinyl, and people can watch the full movie through Vimeo.
Yeah.
If people want to follow you online or keep up to date with what Vreid is doing, what's the best way to do that?
I have to recommend that you go and follow us on Facebook, or that you follow us on Instagram. Both those places are quite active, and we try to put out all the information and stay in connection with people through that. And if you also prefer streaming, that's fine. Spotify, Apple Music, whatever your choice. For me, it's not important where you listen to our music, just that you listen to it.
Excellent. Is there anything else you want to say?
I think that wraps it up quite good. I just appreciate the support and having the time to talk with you here. And again, just check out our new album. I think it's our strongest work to date, I have to say. I'm really, really proud of this album. So I'm glad to see people enjoy it as well.
Cool. Tack så mycket.
Tack.
Into the mountains.